Enies Lobby Saga is probably one of the best saga in the whole One Piece, with this probably being on my top 3. A series of arcs that are filled with moments that will put you on the edge of your seat and chapters that will make you ugly cry. It is truly one of the best arcs of all time. But, how does it hold up in One Piece Pirate Warriors 4? In the last video, Alabasta arc that I played was vastly different from what I experienced in the manga. There are parts where I was extremely disappointed, parts where I was fair, and parts where I was truly delighted. One thing that I've learned though is my writing is bad, or at the very least I am not satisfied with it. So what I did to improve my writing is at the very least go slowly with the process and analyze it further. Now I cannot guarantee that this will be vastly different from the last video, but the way I structured my writing is vastly different from what we had on the last video. This time I will be talking about the manga chapter first, explain the whole level, and tell you what my overall feelings about this matter. Hopefully this change would help me to better formulate my thoughts and deliver better content. Level 1, Chapters 326 to 334. When they arrive at the Galila, the briefcase was stolen, but Polly beat up Frankie family only because he was running away from some debt collectors. When everyone thought that the money is safe, Polly then went ahead and tried stealing it for himself, but Rob Lucci stopped him and gave back the money to the Straw Hats. When they entered the Galila though, Usopp got kidnapped by the same Frankie family along with the 200 million belly. Nami and Luffy realized that this whole situation is happening when Luffy noticed that the briefcase is significantly lighter than what it is. And with Kako and Usopp having both long nose, Lulu, one of the Galila workers, mentioned that he thought Kako was with a bunch of Frankie family. Only then Nami and Luffy realized that Usopp was kidnapped along with the 200 million belly. Both Luffy and Nami rushed on finding Usopp, and when Nami did, all she saw was a beaten up Usopp. Nami in panic asked Usopp to wait there and rushed back to the crew asking for help. But Usopp had other plans and went to the Frankie family's base of operation, where he attempted to fight Frankie and the Frankie family, which was pretty much futile. Then, Straw Hats arrived, wreaked havoc. When Usopp finally woke up, the whole conversation happened, and Luffy and Usopp had a fight over Mary's ownership. The level on the other hand started with Usopp chasing Frankie family who stole the repair money for Mary. In this level, you can both lose money by not killing the pirate commander before they reach their destination, or kill them quick enough that you could get all the money back. Either way, Frankie would spawn after the objective, and the next thing you have to do is fight him. Defeating him would progress the story and trigger dialogues and cutscenes, and then the level would jump forward to Usopp vs Luffy. No gimmicks here whatsoever, a pretty much straightforward level, but if you are only playing the dramatic log and haven't touched free log or treasure log, it will be your first time using Usopp and a technique character. The level is good enough for the start of an arc, but once again they feel lacking for me. Don't get me wrong though, Usopp chasing Frankie family instead of us seeing him beaten up is much more better for its level design. But I do wish that we get to see him get kidnapped and Usopp fighting back was shown instead. It could have been conveyed by Usopp surrounded by a bunch of mini-boss and us having to fight through them, or Usopp having to kill 500 minions, and once the objective is complete, the same sequence that had happened in the manga is adapted, and the next POV is Usopp fighting Frankie and Frankie family inside of Frankie house. And Luffy and the gang destroying the Frankie house could have been turned into a cutscene instead of a dialogue. These changes could enhance the enjoyment for everyone and would have been an accurate way of depicting the story. Other than these points, I don't really find anything inaccurate in this level moving forward. I think the cutscenes were phenomenal and using Usopp enhances the fight scene. This level is a perfect balance of inaccuracy and accuracy, and I want to be fair with this analysis. As I've said before, this is a good enough level, not only for a start of an arc, but also an adaptation of the original source material. Level 2, Chapters 341 to 349. When word got around that Iceberg was shot, Luffy and Nami went to see how Iceberg was doing. As the same as this time, Frankie went home only to see that the Frankie house was destroyed. Frankie, realizing the Straw Hats did this, he then left and went to where Luffy currently is. Frankie and Luffy then had a fight, and amidst of this, Iceberg woke up and revealed that it was Nico Robin who attacked her. Galila workers, immediately concluding that this is an attack of the Straw Hats, they immediately fought Luffy while Luffy was still fighting Frankie, and now Luffy and Frankie is fighting both the Galila workers. Then, the Galila made Frankie fly up like a bird, so Luffy is the one who's fighting everyone. Frankie then watched Luffy get Sigang up, then he said that he's the one who's supposed to be fighting Luffy, so Frankie used Scoop the Vent to destroy a crane, giving Luffy a chance to escape. Luffy then went ahead and see Iceberg for the lore dump, and at night, when Galila was guarding Iceberg, they were attacked by CP9. Seeing this as an opportunity, he immediately disappeared but got stuck. Zoro thinking he's already there, they all went ahead and rushed at the entrance, only to see a sea of enemies, and on which Zoro dealt with them by using the back of his blade. CP9 then revealed themselves, and it turns out that Lucci, Kaku, Khalifa, and Blueno were a part of CP9, and they wanted a blueprint of Pluton. When the Straw Hats and Polly finally arrive at Iceberg's room, a huge fight ensued, with both Luffy and Zoro getting flown out of the building and the whole Galila HQ getting burned. This level, on the other hand, introduces variety in its level design. Scripted, but still has two different approaches on how you complete the set level. The main goal here is to get in contact with Robin again. In the story, Robin attacked Iceberg while the whole thing with the Mary was happening. Given the fact that Iceberg survived that attack, the Straw Hat concluded that Nico Robin would also come back. Now, the Straw Hat had to fight a sea of Galila workers in order to get to Iceberg. But before all of that, Frankie suddenly arrived looking for Luffy, and he destroyed a crane in the process. You have to fight him, which is pretty easy, just your average boss fight, and then you can proceed with the main objectives. You have two approaches at this level. Either you distract the Galila workers by destroying all of the cranes, or you go give everyone hell and go straight to it. Either of what you picked will ultimately open up the door to Galila, and you would go inside of it to trigger a cutscene and a boss fight against Blueno. Defeating Blueno would trigger another dialogue and end the level. To be honest, they handled the start of the level the best way they could. Even if both approaches end in the same way, it lets you be methodical on how you play it. Personally, I prefer going gung-ho and just fighting everyone in the process, and some might want that strategic approach. This is a good touch in the game that gives us variety and replayability in this level. However, while I praise the start of the level, the ending on the other hand didn't stick. One thing I noticed in the past arc is that there's fewer enemies despite being a Muso game. In this arc, on the other hand, they went heavy with it. The amount of enemies in this level is incomparable to the previous level. And if you are a guy like me who loves power fantasy, where you beat multiple enemies the same as they do with One Piece, this one scratches the itch, but the ending was surprisingly lackluster. CP9 appearance was only limited to the dialogues, and you've only fought Blueno. As much as it was a rush to fight the enemies at the start, the landing didn't stick, and I was left wanting for more. I am genuinely disappointed by how this level ends. Level 3. Chapters 350 to 358. In these chapters, we were able to get a little bit more closer with Frankie. We also experienced his backstory, and combat-wise, both Frankie and Usopp got beaten into a pulp. It's only long because of the backstory. This level is quite simple as well. You fight Lucci and his goons using Usopp with Frankie. And to be honest, I question the existence of this very level. A fight that was only covered for only a few panels should have been put in dialogue, and instead put a C-Train level where Sanji and Frankie fight through the Marines and Cypher Paul in an attempt to rescue Robin. There are two fights here where Frankie fought Nero and Sanji fought Wanze, which is a very big fight as well. Anyways, Level 4. Chapter 376 to 388. Luffy, being the Chad he is, immediately rushed and fought with the Marines in order to get to Robin. Of course, Marine didn't have any chance, so they got beaten up really bad. Frankie family and Galila workers come along and they wreaked havoc as well, eventually opening up the gates, only to be met by Oimo and Kaishi, which are giants. They did an amazing teamwork in order to take them down, and Zoro and the rest of the Straw Hats flew in, riding the Rocket Man. After that, they rode Gamora and the other one until they get to the gate in which Luffy is in. In there, Zoro literally just cut up the door and they went inside. They then fought this judge, but the Frankie family covered them, giving the rest of the Straw Hats a chance to go upstairs. Usopp or Soggy King, on the other hand, talked to Oimo and Kashi, bringing them to their side, and while everything of this is happening, Luffy is fighting Blueno, revealing his new power, Gear Second, and eventually beat him. This is one of the best levels so far. One of the main thing here is you need to break through. That means you constantly have to open up the gates so that everyone can pass by. The level starts with you helping Frankie family open up the gate. Though it drags where it requires 1 minute and 30 seconds, protecting them from a never-ending Marine Commander is still quite entertaining and engaging. After opening up the main gate, there are more sets of gates you need to open up. In order to do that, you have to attack this big button thing. There is also a set of submissions where you capture territory with Zoro and Sanji. Following this, you have to protect the Frankie family for a set amount of time until they open up the gate, and you have to rush to the top to fight Blueno once again. This fight introduces the phases in a boss fight. The only difference is you are the one who's going to the second phase. After getting Blueno in his half health, a cutscene will trigger while Luffy is using Gear Second for the first time. Right after that, you get to control Luffy's Gear Second until you beat Blueno, ending the level. This is the level that enhances the overall experience. They put layers of it not to make the level as simple as it is in the manga. In the manga, Luffy went ahead and fought a bunch of marines and just basically run wild where everyone is lagging behind. Now, I do not expect them to put Gamora and Sodom in the battlefield because they are insanely huge, and we would require 5 to 10,000 enemies to spawn at the same time to justify the inclusion of both Gamora and Sodom. I do hope though that there is a possibility of it in the next Pirate Warriors game, but I do understand that they are not here. Rather, their absence made the whole level really complex and really cool. I love this level. I cannot say the same on the next level though, and oh boy, I'm about to cook this level. Level 5, Chapters 400 to 428. When the Straw Hats entered the Tower of Justice, they immediately met Fukuro, who revealed that there are multiple keys. One of those keys could free up Robin, so the Straw Hats scattered looking for the key. Luffy immediately running to Luffy, though he got lost and drowned in the process. Zoro meeting up with Kaku, they had a fight scene before he completely transformed into a giraffe. Uso meeting Jabra, Sanji meeting Khalifa, Nami meeting Kumadori, and a fight scene of Sanji and Fukuro. While all of this is happening, Zoro and Kaku broke a wall and was moved in the room where Jabra and Usopp is. Due to Usopp's dumbness though, both Usopp and Zoro get handcuffed to each other. Chopper then arrived and was tasked to get the number 2 key that would free up Zoro. Chopper trying to fight the key met up with Nami is getting chased by Kumadori and a beaten up Sanji falling from the sky. Chopper then attacked Kumadori and Nami had a fight with Khalifa. Both Chopper and Kumadori arrive at the same place as where Frankie and Fukuro are, and Chopper actually locked up Kumadori inside the fridge. Frankie eventually beats up Fukuro and Chopper went berserk and defeated Kumadori. He also went and interrupted the fight between Nami and Khalifa, and Usopp, Zoro, and Kaku and Jabra fight until he was pushed off the sea by Frankie. Nami then was able to beat Khalifa, who has the number 2 key, and was able to free up Zoro. Usopp was then chased by Jabra until he was attacked by Sanji, and a whole new fight then ensues, and Sanji won the fight. Right after that, Zoro then managed to beat up Kaku, getting all the keys to free up Robin. While all of this is happening, Luffy was fighting Lucci, and with clock ticking, Frankie rendezvoused to Robin and was there at Luffy vs Lucci fight. In order to let Frankie pass through though, Luffy activated his Gear Second, and Robin was then finally freed up, but the Buster Call has started its attack. Lucci then damaged a part of the tower where water would leak and flood the underground, which is the only place Straw Hats could pass through in order to get to Robin. Luffy and Lucci then went upwards to continue their fight, and then Luffy finally uses Gear Third, breaking through the tower. Lucci flying off to the warships, Luffy immediately followed him, dealing more attacks. But Luffy deflates and turns into a small guy, vulnerable to Lucci's attacks. But with one last effort and Straw Hat fighting up the Buster Call, Luffy finally beat Rob Lucci. This level, however, started with you fighting Marine Commanders in order to free up Frankie. After doing so, Kako and Jabra will appear in the Wolf's Den and Zoro and Usopp will be there as well. You have to fight both of them until they reach a certain amount of health and they will be invulnerable for a moment. Jabra would then leave the Wolf's Den and appear at the stairwell. Usopp would leave and chase after Jabra as well. At this moment, you will be able to defeat Kaku. Following this, you now have to run to Jabra to defeat him as well, and at the same time, Sanji would also rendezvous with the Jabra and fight him as well. And then he said to Usopp that he should do the stuff that Sanji couldn't. At this part of the level, you will be able to defeat Jabra. Both Kaku and Jabra boss fights will trigger a cutscenes. After defeating them both, there will be 2 submissions to trigger. Both of them is to defeat a Marine Commander with Usopp and with Frankie. After this, you have to fight a bunch of Marine Commander that has keys to unlock the undersea path. Dealing with them would open up a gate that will lead to Rob Lucci. The Rob Lucci has 2 phases that is being run by its dialogue. After you finish a certain dialogue, a cutscene would trigger, and the first one is the start of the Buster Call where the arena's walls get shot by a cannon, and the second is where Luffy was beaten up by Lucci and Usopp appears in this cutscene. In this cutscene, Luffy would use his Seer Second, and it would also be triggered in the fight for a set amount of time. After fighting Lucci, you now have to make your way to the Bridge of Hesitation, where you have to fight off a bunch of reinforcements. After dealing with them, the level officially ends. I am frustrated because there's so much content that they cut in the game. Fights that are as significant as the fight that you've seen in the level. And they just ruined the whole level for me. You see, there are a bunch of characters here that can't be played but are enemies and allies. There's Mr. 1, Mr. 2, Mr. 3, Garp, Kobe, Sengoku. Heck, Jabra and Kako are not playable but they can be enemies and allies as well. But once again, they didn't include Komadori, Fukuro, and Khalifa, which breaks the immersion. They are as big as the other fight. And because of this, what I'm feeling is the Straw Hat only consists of Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, because if they are not the one who's doing the fighting, you bet your ass they are not included in this level. They leave a bad taste in your mouth and ruins the overall experience. As a One Piece fan, I only not want to fight as Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, but I want to do it as the rest of the Straw Hats as well. But they get sidelined so much that even if they have fights and contributions, they just completely remove them at all. And also, have I talked about Luffy not using Gear Third at all? Instead, the tower was hit by a cannon. Yeah, a fucking cannon. I really hated the fact that they cut that part since it's basically the first reveal of Gear Third as well. In the manga, they teased the Gear Third a few times, but here they are, they remove Gear Third altogether, and this just ruins it further for me. It still has some good sides of it, but the bad outweighs heavily. That my view for this level is fully altered and it ruined the overall level for me. The last level, chapters 432 to 439. Kobe and Helmepho fought Luffy and Zoro and immediately got defeated. The Straw Hats then had a party and they waited till Frankie and Galila was done building Thousand Sunny. World plot then happened, and when the ship was done, all of the Straw Hats went ahead and saw it. It was at this point as well where they decided to have Frankie in as the official shipwright of the Straw Hats. But Frankie, being burdened of what happened in the past, refused to leave the island. So what they did was steal his pants and run around across Water 7. They then set sail and got chased by the Marines and Luffy's grandfather, Garp. Meanwhile, Usopp is rendezvousing back to the Straw Hats but was then ignored until Usopp apologizes. The Straw Hats then use coup de burst, escaping from the Marines. The level starts with you fighting a bunch of Marine commanders and Kobe. After that, a Frankie family member would appear in the map that stole Frankie's pants. Frankie would then chase after him, and now you have to fight Frankie in order to give the pants stealer a chance to get to the Thousand Sunny. Amidst all of this, Garp would spawn in throwing a bunch of cannons that could damage Pad Stealer. You have the choice to stop him or not. Either way, after the whole objective with Frankie has been completed and you fight him one last time in front of Sunny, Garp would retreat. Cutscene would then trigger and Frankie officially joining the Straw Hats. After all of that, you now have to escort Usopp to the Sunny. In this mission, Aokiji would spawn in blocking paths for Usopp. You could either destroy all of the ice that blocks the path or defeat Aokiji altogether. In my case, I did both. A bunch of marine commanders would appear on the way and you now have to beat them so that Usopp can move and progress. After arriving at the Sunny, Garp would spawn in one last time and once you've beaten him, the level will end. I have to give credit when credit is due. This is the perfect way to translate the whole chapters and make it entertaining. I really have no gripes with its level design, but I kinda do with its map design. In the manga, you can see them running across town and roofs, but yeah, map design in this part of the level doesn't help at all. Aside from that, the whole level is really good. You have a bunch of choices to approach this level, giving you a lot of replayability. And that is the whole Enies Lobby saga in One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. This arc is really good, and the only deal breaker for this, to be honest, is the amount of cut content in the big deciding fight. But other than that, I am still happy with how this arc improved, and I do hope that the next saga will infinitely better than these past two sagas. To tell you the truth, the only reason why I feel so heated is because this is one of my favorite sagas of all time, and I genuinely want this to be adapted in a way where every Straw Hat fight is included. But hey, we win some, we lose some. If you enjoyed watching this video and you want more analysis not only on One Piece but on other anime games, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and even comment what are your thoughts about this analysis. I also stream a lot, so make sure you hit that notification bell to keep you updated. For now, this is Myusene, and I'll see you all next week for the massive and chaotic Marineford saga.